In this world, women are told to stay small. Men are told to not feel and stay strong. This is the patriarchy. And before I lose you on that word, patriarchy, it's not about blaming anyone. It's about blaming the system in which everyone loses. Fighting the patriarchy isn't an attack, it's a solution. I have researched the patriarchy and who it affects and in what ways. Let me begin with how the patriarchy affects people. Jess Corpus says, quote, according to a survey by STEM4, a youth mental health charity, 37% of boys and young men ages 14 to 21 have mental health issues. And according to the same survey, 51% of those boys and young men do not talk about their issues at all, owing it to the stereotypes of being weak and overbearing. End quote. Boys and men not talking about their emotions, bottling them up, can lead to unhealthy measures such as drugs, alcohol, sex, or suicide. Did you know that, quote, men die from suicide 3.88 times more than women? And white men accounted for 69.68% of all suicide deaths in 2020, end quote. This is according to the Egalitarian and the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. This means that the patriarchal society that oppresses male feelings is feeding into unhealthy measures, especially suicide. One of the harmful ways the patriarchy shows up for women is in their social media feed. According to PubMed Central, quote, the patriarchal convention of a perfect woman accompanied by a punishingly harsh physical model bears negative effects on impressionable psyches, end quote. If you didn't know, the patriarchal idea of a perfect woman is quiet, agreeable, submissive, skinny, young, and so on. These ideas, especially being submissive, are often encouraged to young women as womanly. This leads to an oppressive environment further damages the confidence of women. But the patriarchy doesn't just affect people mentally, it also affects people physically. Patriarchal ideas about masculinity have negative effects on men's health. These ideas encourage risk-taking behaviors and discourages help-seeking or health-enhancing behaviors. This means men are more likely to get hurt or sick and less likely to get help when they are. Men are more likely to stop taking medications for chronic or life-threatening illnesses. And men are less likely to take time off work when they are injured or sick, and less likely to recognize symptoms of major health issues and illnesses that affect them more than women, like heart disease. According to the Next Gen Men, quote, worldwide, the life expectancy for men is 3 to 4 years lower than it is for women, end quote. And 36% of all male deaths are from preventable diseases, while only 19% for female deaths. While men are dying from preventable diseases and illnesses, women are being pushed to extreme measures of meeting unrealistic ideas of physical attributes, such as extreme anorexia and bulimia, which, according to PubMed Central, it has increasing cases amongst teen girls and young women. Quote, these psychological issues lead to intense physical harm and can even prove fatal in extreme cases, end quote. In cases which the patient survives and is able to recover, there could already be long-term health effects, such as brain atrophy, which means that gradual loss of brain tissue, and osteoporosis, meaning low-density bones, which are more vulnerable to fractures. Now that we have seen what happens to people mentally and physically in a patriarchal society, let's look at what happens to them socially. According to the egalitarian, quote, the patriarchy also harms men's chances of meaningful and healthy relationships with others. by creating homophobia-fueled barriers against deep male friendships, further damaged by the ever-present threat of violence between men, end quote. This means that men who are more likely to not talk about their feelings also don't have the resources to talk about those feelings. As we have covered earlier, men who do not talk about their feelings and bottle up their emotions often lead to unhealthy measures such as drug and alcohol use, as well as aggression. This can lead to prison time. Quote, the Sentencing Project estimates that 1 in 9 men in the United States will end up in prison at some point, compared to 1 in 56 women, end quote. While men are more likely to have prison time, women are more likely to be victims of violence. According to the Next Gen Men, quote, worldwide, violence against women and girls is still an urgent issue. From child brides, forced marriages, sexual assault, human trafficking, domestic violence, and femicide, end quote. There is no shortage of ways in which women and girls are still a subject to violence under the patriarchy. Now that we know what happens to people in a patriarchal society, let's dive in on what parts of a patriarchal society causes these effects. According to the Egalitarian, the patriarchy is a social system in which men are seen as leaders, decision makers, and breadwinners, as well as being good at only one thing, quote, fighting in wars and working their minds and bodies until exhaustion, end quote. The patriarchy is also what normalizes the inhumane method of bottling up your feelings, to the point where men seek drugs, alcohol, sex, suicide, or a combination of these to numb the pain. Have you ever noticed that there isn't a diaper changing station in a men's restroom? This is the patriarchy, which believes that men are not good at raising children, and that single fathers are a rare breed of unicorn. So, what makes up the patriarchy? 2 words: toxic masculinity. According to Jess Corpus, quote, if the patriarchy was a car, toxic masculinity can be thought as the factory, which produces the doors, the tires, the engine, and the seats, end quote. The term toxic masculinity refers to a set of socially constructed traits and behaviors such as aggression, emotional suppression, dominance, and the need to control or devalue others, especially women. So, we live in a society that negatively affects everyone. What can we do about it? We can fight the patriarchy by challenging sexist behavior and advocating for change in politics in the workplace, as well as individual work for both men and women. For men specifically, be vulnerable and show your emotions other than anger. For women, it's okay to take up space and be opinionated. Everyone needs to be who they are without the box that the patriarchy wants to put you in. So, in conclusion, the patriarchy negatively affects both men and women mentally, physically, and socially. No one is to blame but the system we live in. Fight the patriarchy.